phone calls from random people asking me for advice and counsel on, what I did. And I'm like, dude, I've just been doing this for a year and a half. I don't know. But I'll tell you something, and someone's in the room right now. I got a call, was it 8 months ago, from someone. It was a Latina entrepreneur from LA. And she had somehow, through the grapevine, had heard about me, had heard about my story, and she called me up and we set up a time and we talked about her dream to become an entrepreneur and to step out on her own. It's Marcy Perez. And I invited her here today. We've actually exchanged.
It was an awesome phone call. She's as awesome as she sounds right now.
Thank you. But pay it forward. So, acquire information and then give information to other people. And this is something that I have a gripe about. Sometimes we withhold information, right? We guard it. We want to make it ours. We don't want other people to succeed and surpass us. We're a little territorial. Let's face it. It's true. So pass it forward. And so be curious, ask questions, grow other people, and give others the opportunity to shine as well.
That's great, thank you. Certainly, other questions that we could answer in that sense. Another thing that's, as you're thinking questions you might have for us is, the part of, taking that step, taking that entrepreneurship, that risk taking, doing your homework, doing the resources from government, getting those facilities, using other people in that industry to, feed from them what works, what didn't work for them. Another thing too is that as you start, getting to the point that you're able to then, as a small business and you're surviving and doing well, getting over the 2-year hump, let's say per se, then you got to think about government too. Think about this: the federal government has to, they're not going to get slapped, but it's their goal to buy 23% of their goods and services from small business. This year's going to be $100 billion. So think about that too in that sense. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, I'll be honest with you, it's not guaranteed. But you start cultivating that too, and you start diversifying yourself in terms of a business. Not just one particular customer all the time, but you diversify and have some of the government contracts in that sense. And that's what we do at Latino Coalition, is help cultivate those relationships. But think about that too, 23%, $100 billion that the government buys from small business. That's quite a bit of money, though. So think about that as well. What other questions that you might have that we can answer? You're over your limit, no more. No, just kidding.
A follow-up question, but I also wanted to make a comment on Eric's comment about earning serendipity and paying it forward. The last chapter in the book is about sharing the harvest, which is really, I think, which is about paying it forward, which is really what starts that engine. And the book is, I think, was in everyone's packet. Part of it was reading it and sharing it. I wanted to follow up on the ones, and not everyone that is a corporate entrepreneur. And I'm kind of curious from you, Louis, is how do you identify people that are corporate entrepreneurs versus the ones that they need to be like me and they need to be out on their own?
So let me see if I understand the question. So who are my entrepreneurs inside of IBM? Is that the question? You know what? They step outside of the box. They step forward. They say, I have an idea. They're not afraid to share. That's beautiful. And it makes them, believe it, we've heard some stuff off the wall, and there are times we have to sit back and say, what's the business value? Back to your question, we'll do the research and say, well, how big is this marketplace? We have that ability. But on the other hand, entrepreneurship is not always about ideas as much as looking at opportunities, okay? I go back to the social media. I'll be honest with you guys, when I heard about social media 3 years ago, I was like, this thing's gonna be a short-lived initiative and it's gonna be gone. Here we are now, 2010, Facebook is worth billions of dollars. Companies continue to force the LinkedIn and so on. So sometimes you, as a manager, it's in a large company, you have to, give that individual an opportunity to speak up and really say, if I'm not the right person to talk to you, let me connect you with somebody else who's more open-minded, because those ideas sometimes are worth billions of dollars. So it's just connecting them with the right individuals.
I want to mention something that I think is really important. I was thinking about your grandmother, actually. We talked about innovation and being an entrepreneur with ideas for products, with ideas for businesses, being inside and outside of a corporate structure, and any other type of innovation. But one thing that we haven't talked about that I think is very appropriate to Glenn Yopi's message as he organizes these sessions is internal entrepreneurship. How are you thinking about challenging and changing your own life? And it just seemed to me that maybe I should say this as a full circle for what we've talked about today and what Glenn writes about. My short story is that I've done a lot of different things, including first starting out in education and then being in politics and being in the White House with President Clinton, running the National Women's Political Caucus, working State Department and training women overseas, doing all these different things. And at one point I felt like I've tried all the ideas that I've had, and enjoyed them and moved on to the next thing and felt like I didn't have many resources left. And so after 50, I went back to school. I just completed a PhD in organizational development. And the idea of entrepreneurship goes not just to products and not just to ideas for other things or other people or other companies. You can also be your own personal entrepreneur, to think about yourself and how you might invest that creative energy in considering your own life, no matter what age you are at, and how you can create something new with that as well. It's an area that we don't talk about very much, and in some ways may seem like not a very good calculated risk because I can't take time out or I have other responsibilities. But another sign of a true entrepreneur is that unless you are continually challenged, you'll die. You will dry up because you live and breathe ideas and newness. And I won't say novelty because that sounds cheap, but new creative energy comes from you. And so besides investing that energy in product ideas and innovation for change, think about innovation for your own life and what you need to keep yourself renewed. I believe that when you make that investment to renew yourself in whatever way, spiritual, scholarly, physically, any other way, that it helps you then to move on and be even more innovative and entrepreneurial after that because you have regenerated yourself.
I have a quick question. You mentioned internal entrepreneurship. Are there any books off the top of your head that you recommend that kind of speak a little at length about that?
I think that one of the, there's an old book that was like a career occupational book that Bowles did about what color is your parachute. I don't know if you've ever seen that. The only reason I mention that because he's talking about getting a job, right? But in so doing, he creates an analysis for you to really understand yourself and what gives you energy. Not only what tasks, but what environments and what values really create that energy and motivation for you. And I think it's a very good framework to start from, and then I move forward on that. And for those of you who are my age, he's followed up with a co-author of what color is your retirement parachute. Okay? And he actually talks about reinventing yourself or being your own entrepreneur for your life as you get older and recreating that energy. So both of those that set are very good, and it's kind of a self-analysis without feeling like you're, on the psychiatrist's table or something. But it's a really good reference.
Just give me an idea here.
Yeah.
The retirement parachute, it's called, open up a bank, go after stimulus money, and that's our gold retirement parachute.
There you go.